What's happening, financial coaches? It's Pete here. I want to talk to you today about sales, basically, kind of pitching yourself to prospective clients, maybe to your existing clients, clients that need to re-up, re-meet with you. And this is kind of something that's just taken from some basic sales training. And it's something that I think a lot of financial coaches do wrong. And I've had coaches do it wrong. I did it wrong. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it this way. It doesn't necessarily mean that talking about the process is the wrong thing to do. But in sales training, you have probably, maybe, have heard of the phrase, sell the sizzle, not the steak. And I think most people don't understand it. They know the cliche, but they don't really understand it. And so I'm going to use it today. I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to talk about it in terms of a steak at some points here. But basically, what I think, and I see most financial coaches do when they're trying to pitch themselves, when they're trying to say what their value proposition is, whether it's to prospective clients or to other coaches. I've seen this in a lot of coaching groups where people are saying, listen, I help clients understand their values. I help them identify goals. I help them break that down into daily tasks and work and have conversations with their spouses and get on the same page. And I put them on a path. I define a path and a plan for them to achieve these things. And they talk about the way they work, right? And they're talking about the method of how they work with people. And that isn't really what people are looking for. If I'm a client asking a coach, why should I hire you? And you tell me about your process, that doesn't really sell me on anything. It just tells me how you work. It tells me what you're doing, And here, let me talk about my steak example. If I were going to talk to you as a chef and say, hey, you sell steaks here, and I'm just kind of curious at this restaurant, why should I eat your steak? And you say, listen, I use a cast iron skillet. It's been seasoned over the years, and I sear the edges of the steak, and I sear the top and the bottom, and then I broil it to bring it up to the temperature that's ideal for whether you want rare or well done, right? And I use some high-end equipment to do this, really great gas broiler or whatever it might be. That's telling you how it is, right? But that's selling the steak, not the sizzle. That's giving you the process, the method of it, the inside baseball of how I work, which isn't really what anyone cares about. I don't really care how you do it. What I want to know is, why should I eat your steak? Why is your steak better, right? So what someone should probably say in this case is, I serve the most tender steaks in the world. They are absolutely fresh. They're brought in from around here. They just melt in your mouth. I have a crunchy seasoning rub that goes on it so that you just have this wonderful crust. So not only is it super tender and juicy inside, but you just get this flavor of this explosion of flavor, this flavorful bite in your mouth. So you won't want to use any types of extraneous sauce or seasonings. Everything that you're going to want is right in the steak. It is the most enjoyable steak eating experience that you can imagine. It's the perfect steak. So that's what I want to hear. Generally, I don't sell food, so I don't know if that's a good example or not, but I do enjoy a good steak. But what I don't care about is the process of cooking the steak. I don't care about the process or the method of making the steak. What I want to understand is why the experience of eating your steak is going to be beneficial to me. Why should I make that decision to eat here at this restaurant as opposed to at that restaurant, right? And so if you're selling me on the process, if you're selling me on the method, that's not going to work. If you're selling me the steak and not the sizzle, right, the reason that I want to use it or eat it or what makes it attractive, then you're selling the wrong thing. And that's why I think a lot of people tune it out. Even other financial coaches who say, what kind of work do you do? Who do you work with? How can I refer to you? I'd like to partner up with you because you work with millennials or something, like that I've heard. And they go into this process. Well, I have this, diagnostic process, and then I take them through, an orientation session and whatever it might be, right? Again, that doesn't matter. You might get to it, but what I need to know is what you do and why it's beneficial to me. And as a client, what I like usually using is examples. And what I usually will try to do is based on whatever introduction I've had to this person. If I know that they've come up and they said, hey, Pete, I heard you work with people in debt. And I'm kind of curious, what do you do for people like that? I wouldn't say I help you understand your values and identify your goals, and then together we'll be more powerful than any one of us working individually, and we'll go farther, right? I mean, those are things that I used to say. But what I would say is, if it's about debt, I might say, listen, I worked with this family. They were juggling all sorts of socially acceptable debts and bills, right? The car loan, the mortgage payment, some student loans, a personal loan, a 401k loan. They had all of these obligations, and they just felt like they were treading water. And what I wanted to do was figure out a way to make all those payments more affordable. How could we get a handle on that so that there's surplus at the end of the month, so that we could also add in things like retirement and saving for college and all these other things that they really wanted to do, right? How could we balance them all? And at the end of the month, make sure that they were comfortable and relaxed and joyful and hopeful about their financial future, right? So none of that included the process that I go through with people, right? If I wanted to talk about the process, if I wanted to sell the method there, I would say, listen, we're going to talk about where the income is coming from. What does your expense picture look like? What are all your debts and obligations and liabilities? What are all the assets and tools and resources that you have in place? And we could go through all of that, and I could come up with some ideas of how we can move things around or refinance or renegotiate or restructure, right? That's all process. And yet, that's going to be very important once we're in it. But when someone is asking me a question like that, they want to know what I can do for them, right? How can I take them from here to there, not all the little mechanisms, the tips and tricks in between. Now, once you start working with someone, they may want to know more tips and tricks, right? They understand that you're helping them get from hopeless to hopeful, right? And so instead of just the 2 or 3 that you've given them, hey, they might call back. And this is what I've done with people in the FI world, my clients there, is that they want to know the next thing that they can do. They've enjoyed doing this. They've enjoyed doing that. What's the next thing what's the next expense that they can get rid of? How can they pay off their home mortgage, right? How can they get closer to retiring early, or whatever it is, right? So once people start getting some momentum on that, I've found that they enjoy looking at the process. But that's not what brings them in. That's not what sells them on working with a financial coach. That's not what gives them the excitement of working with a financial coach. It's what you can do, and the experience and the knowledge of what I've done with other people. I try to use those in examples wherever I can, so that people understand that, hey, there's someone like me, they were able to help them, they got them from A to B or to C or D, and so hopefully they can help me do that, right? And again, once they're ready, then we can go into the process. But what we want to do for the most part is, especially when we're selling, and I know a lot of people are working on building their business, they are working on trying to get clients that they've worked with maybe once or twice to come back, right, for that follow-up, for that third, that fourth session, right? Think about the benefits. Think about what's going to help them. Think about what they want to hear and what they're trying to do, not the process that you work through, not the methods that you have, the toolkits that you have, and all these great resources that you've come across, and your training and your certifications. That usually does not motivate or convince someone to work with you. They want to know what the benefit is to them, right? So sell the benefits, the sizzle, not the steak, right? So the benefits, not the method. Hopefully that all makes sense. Hopefully that will help you, and I'll look forward to talking to you soon. See you later.